One thing I tell students is don't get in the habit of just using your favorite brush on everything. You lose a bit of richness and a bit of variety in your brush mark when you're constantly using the same brush. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to paint a tree in dynamic light. When it comes to painting trees, to make the tree look more lifelike, have it lean one way or the other. When a tree is perfectly straight, it doesn't look quite right. So there was a little bit of lean on this tree. I exaggerated it slightly, leaning over to the left. We want to approach trees just like we do a normal painting. We want to think about the light values, the middle values, and the darks in the process. So after I laid in a drawing, I dampened the front and back of the paper. And this is a demo of a full painting, but today we're just going to be talking about this tree. I find that if we can hone in on certain elements of our scene and practice those specific things, that our overall paintings get much stronger. So I've laid in my sky wash, and I'm going to lay in some warm value for the tree. I started by laying in some softness into the sky for some of the foliage. Now we're going to go over a lot of that again, but if I leave little bits behind on my next wash, I want some of that tree color to show through in those gaps. What I'm using here is some Cobalt Turquoise with raw sienna and a little bit of cadmium yellow. And when it comes to the light on the tree, I don't want to leave that as the white of the paper. I'm using some raw sienna with just a touch of neutral tint, so it's not too saturated, and that gives me that nice light color of the tree. And we'll zip ahead a little bit. So at this point, we have laid in the drawing, we've laid in the light values softly, wet into wet, and now we're going to start to build up the values as we go to really make the light believable on the tree. Before I go in and start painting the middle values, I'm taking a clean brush and I'm putting a little bit of water, not over the whole paper, just in little areas. And the reason I like to do this is because I like to create some softness on the paper. I don't want just hard edges all over the place. And if I put a little water on the paper, I'll get some nice lost and found edges within the middle values. And I feel like that helps with the light effect as well. If not all the edges are hard and crisp, some of them are soft and more lost. So here I'm using a stronger version of what I used in the light values. We're trying to get the middle values in place. So a little bit more Cobalt Turquoise, raw sienna with some cadmium yellow. And I'm using a calligraphy brush. Now this is a cheap brush I found on Amazon. What it's good for is to load up a good amount of paint, and you can turn the brush sideways, use the side of it on your paper to get broken marks for the trees. Now you'll notice I came in with a second brush. That's a size 12 Escoda Perla brush, and that's a clean, damp brush. I find that while I did add some water on the paper, as I'm going, I might have some edges that I want to soften or change, so it's handy to have a second brush for that reason. Now I'm painting the middle values. I'm carefully going to be negatively painting around the parts of the tree where I want to preserve the light. So I'm taking my time painting the tree. Now I'm dropping in some background, some cooler colors for the background. Not exactly relevant to the tree, but it was necessary for the painting. And now I'm back up here painting more of the middle values of the tree. Now you can see I'm going around, negatively painting around some of these branches of the tree, and obviously painting around the trunk of the tree as well. I want to preserve the light as I work my way through these different phases. It's time to add more of the middle values on the branches and the trunk of the tree. I'm using a mixture of raw sienna with a little bit of raw umber to paint and start to eliminate some of the areas that don't need to be in full light. Careful to leave this side of the trunk and these sides of the branches. Those are going to be very important when we get our final values into place to really show the brilliant light hitting that side of the tree. Now, what I painted up here, the middle values, are dry already. I'm taking a damp brush and putting a little bit more water over the top of this part that has dried. Again, that's going to give me the opportunity to have some more soft edges layered on top of what I've already painted. And it's this layering that really helps to build that feeling of light. And if you are new to painting in layers or would like to know more about my process, take a look at the free guide that I have down below in the description. You'll see I'm holding the brush further back and using the side of the brush to get some of this texture into place. I'm trying to paint this large shape and add the darks in and let them kind of melt into the middle values in some places, but also by moving my brush quickly, letting it kind of skip across the paper, using the side of my brush, I can create interesting texture. And that combination, along with the areas of wet paper that I re-dampened just a minute ago, it creates a good variety within the shape of the tree. It's also that layering of color where you have the light values with the dark values around it that really help the light to become believable within the tree. I'm going to start to add some of the branches in. I'm using a rigger brush. That's a smaller brush, gives me more control, helps me to make smaller marks, and I'm adding this in. Now, be careful when it comes to painting the branches of the tree. You don't want to paint just straight lines that go all the way back to the core of the tree. The parts that are in shadow are kind of broken up. Some parts are in shadow, some are in light, and to create that light effect, we want to break up that shape, especially the darks, and not have them just be complete straight hard lines. As the branches get away from the trunk, they need to be smaller and smaller as they move away from the tree. And I know that's tricky sometimes. It's one of those things we all know, but if it's wrong, it just doesn't look right. So be mindful of that when you're painting trees. Now, I always love this part of the painting because once we've gotten in the lights, the middle values, and now we start to put in some of the darks, that's when the light really starts to become apparent. Yeah, the light is really starting to become alive right here on the tree, working in some of these branches. And so now the tree is probably 90% done, but there's one more step that's really important to finish that off, and that's adding the fine details and even smaller marks onto the tree. Okay, the lights, the middle values, some of the detail is in place, but we're not quite done with this tree. This is an important step, is finishing the tree up, and I'm back to using my rigger brush. One thing that makes paintings exciting and dynamic and interesting is having a variety of brush strokes, small marks, medium-sized marks, big brush strokes. And when we have all those together, our painting is more interesting. One thing I tell students is don't get in the habit of just using your favorite brush on everything. You lose a bit of richness and a bit of variety in your brush mark when you're constantly using the same brush. So just like we start with big to small with the shapes that we paint, I also do the same thing with brushes. You'll notice I used a bigger brush to start, down to a medium brush, and finishing up with my small rigger brush to add in more of a variety of brush marks. So here, I'm looking at the tree, adding a few little marks, showing the smaller branches. Now, I don't want to get in the habit of painting every little leaf, every little branch that I see. I'm creating an impression of this tree. So I'm carefully looking at the tree, adding a few marks, and I don't want to work in the same area for too long. You'll notice I move around. I started over here, I moved over to here. Move your brush around. Don't get too consumed with one area because soon you overwork that area. And what do we have to do if that happens? We start adding in more details in other areas to catch up, and soon our painting is very overworked. So some of these little gaps where I've left the light within the tree, I'm taking my rigger brush and adding a few little hints of some branches that we can see in those little gaps. And that helps to finish the feeling of the tree and finish the impression. Adding a little bit of just a hint of some of the texture of the bark that's on the tree. I felt like that mark was a little too much. I just used my finger to kind of smudge it a little bit, soften it, and then it becomes less of a distraction. And here is a look at the finished tree. If we can take our time, if we can layer the values from light to dark, if we can have a variety of brush strokes, we can paint a powerful, dynamic tree in strong light. I hope that today's look into my process was helpful. If you have questions about the way that I paint, or are just new to this process and want to know more, take a look at this. Have you ever been really excited about a painting and you get all set up, you find that right reference that you're excited about, and then it's time to go and you feel lost? I have a free resource that I want to give to you today that can help with these problems. My 5 steps to plan a successful watercolor painting. I walk you through the crucial planning phase of your painting that will help you understand what you're going to paint first, second, and third. The planning is really so important, especially in watercolor. This medium is harder to correct. It's so immediate. So having that plan is very important. I send you a PDF that you can download. And the great thing about this is you can have it on your phone. You could print it out. You can download this right now before you start your next painting. All you have to do is follow this link here and download my 5-step guide to planning a successful watercolor painting.